Today we're with you in Alcobaça, but let's say it right from the start, this video will be very different and truly special. Today, we won't just be walking through a historic monument. We'll be discovering two great love stories in one of Europe's least known romantic towns. Because Alcobaça is a place where love is not merely told, it is carved into stone, waiting in tombs, and flowing through rivers. At first glance, it may seem like a quiet, peaceful, and small town. But when you take a closer look, you realize that within this silence live two great love stories that have never stopped being told for centuries. We will follow the traces of one of the most dramatic love stories in Portuguese history, while also uncovering another legend hidden within the very name of Alcobaça. On one side, there is the love of Pedro and Inês, a love stronger than death itself. On the other, there is the story of the meeting of the Alcoa and Baça rivers. One is preserved in stone, the other in water. Pedro and Inês are united in their tombs, while Alcoa and Baça meet in the rivers. As you listen to these stories, you will also be walking with us through the corridors of the monastery, admiring the church's immense columns and witnessing the historic beauty of Alcobaça. So come along and join us as we witness both this history and these remarkable love stories and explore the town together. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Hello everyone. Right now, we are in the city of Alcobaça, about 100 kilometers north of Lisbon. Standing before us is the Church of Santa Maria de Alcobaça, the massive structure at the heart of the monastery complex. We are starting our journey with this enormous Gothic church, which is undoubtedly the most striking part of the monastery. From the outside, it looks simple, solemn, and restrained. But the moment you step through its doors, a completely different feeling begins. As soon as you enter, it feels as if you are stepping into infinity. The vast nave stretching out before you, the soaring columns, the arches rising high above, and the cold yet powerful presence of the stone create a truly breathtaking atmosphere. You do not feel as though you have simply entered a church, you feel as if you have stepped into centuries of history. Here you can clearly see the understated yet majestic nature of Gothic architecture. In some churches, there is an abundance of gold, decoration, and intricate detail. But the impact here comes from something different. It comes from simplicity, from height, and from the raw power of stone itself. One of the reasons this church is so remarkable is the tragic love story it holds within its walls. Imagine a king, a man who, after losing the woman he loved, declared her a queen. This is not a fairy tale. It is a true story from 14th century Portugal. One of the greatest and most legendary love stories in Portuguese history began in Coimbra. Inês arrived at court as a lady-in-waiting to Pedro's wife. She was quiet, graceful, and elegant. When Pedro first saw Inês, he believed his feelings were nothing more than a passing admiration. But a forbidden love began to grow between them. Yet this love faced a powerful obstacle. Pedro's father, King Afonso. Time and again, Pedro was warned by his father and ordered to end the relationship. But Pedro refused to listen. He did not hide his love, nor did he deny it. Their secret relationship continued. And from that relationship, Inês and Pedro had 3 children together. But the king could not tolerate the situation. Politically, it was a disaster waiting to happen. As long as Inês lived, many believed the kingdom was at risk. Then, in 1355, King Afonso finally gave in to the pressure of his advisors. Inês was arrested in front of her children, and she was executed. Pedro was not there, but the tragedy found him nonetheless. The death of Inês shattered Pedro, yet his grief did not last long. It soon turned into fury. Pedro took up arms against his father. The country stood on the brink of civil war. Pedro's mother, Queen Beatrice, intervened and prevented further bloodshed. But nothing eased the pain in Pedro's heart. Then, in 1357, King Afonso died, and Pedro became king, and he made an announcement that stunned all of Portugal. Inês was my wife. I married her in secret, and she is the true queen of Portugal, a dead woman, now a queen. Her body was exhumed and brought here to the monastery of Alcobaça. Pedro commissioned 2 magnificent tombs, one for himself and one for Inês. The tombs were placed facing each other, because Pedro wanted that, on the day of judgment, when they rose from their graves, the first thing they would see would be each other's face. The funeral procession became legendary. According to tradition, Pedro ordered the nobles of the kingdom to kiss the hand of the dead queen. Whether that story is fact or legend, no one knows for certain. But one thing is undeniable. For perhaps the first time in history, love placed a crown upon death. Now we are here, standing witness to this tragic story. These 2 magnificent tombs face each other, silently telling everything that needs to be said. Inês's tomb feels like a love letter carved in stone. The crown above her statue whispers of Pedro's endless love for her. The crown she could never wear in life was placed upon her soul by Pedro for eternity. Below, the dark figures symbolize the cruelty and suffering inflicted upon her. Yet in every detail, you can feel love defying time and the idea that both pain and devotion can be eternal. This tomb tells the story of Inês and Pedro's inseparable love forever. Pedro's tomb is filled with the dream of an eternal reunion. The sword held by his statue symbolizes his vow to protect Inês, while the lions beneath him represent his strength and determination. Every detail of the tomb reflects the hardships he endured, yet his gaze seems fixed on the future, on the eternity where he will be reunited with Inês. This tomb forever whispers the story of Pedro's strength and his undying love. As we continue forward, we arrive at one of the most important parts of the church, the main altar. This is the sacred space at the heart of worship. The area you see at the front of the church facing the rows of seats where the congregation gathers. Normally, this is the direction people face when they pray. In many ways, you can think of the altar as the heart of the church. But in Alcobaça, when you move behind the altar, you discover a beautiful architectural arrangement. Behind the altar is a semicircular space surrounded by columns. Beyond that, a series of small chapels are arranged one after another. So you do not simply look at the altar and move on. Instead, there is an entire space behind it that invites you to continue exploring, gradually leading you from one intimate place of worship to another. For me, the most beautiful thing here is how seamlessly everything is connected. The altar and the chapels behind it do not feel separated. The columns prevent the space from feeling divided by walls. Instead, your eyes naturally flow from one area to the next. The main altar, the columns, the curved rear section, and the chapels all seem to form one continuous sacred space. That creates an incredibly strong sense of unity throughout the interior. From an art history perspective, this is especially significant. Gothic architecture was never just about making buildings taller or larger. It was also about shaping how people experience a space emotionally. As the columns rise upward, the architecture seems to draw you in with them. Meanwhile, the semicircular arrangement of chapels gently guides you around the altar, encouraging a slow and thoughtful journey. The architecture is not simply something you look at, it becomes something that moves you, makes you reflect, and evokes emotion. When I walked into this space, I genuinely felt as if time had slowed down. The noise, movement, and distractions of the outside world seemed to disappear. Walking between these stone walls, you can feel both the weight of history and a deeper understanding of why this place has been regarded as so sacred and important for centuries. Of course, what makes Alcobaça so special is not only its architecture. This is also the place where the story of Pedro and Inês lives on. Their tombs are here, within this monastery. So as we walk through these halls, we are not only exploring a masterpiece of architectural history, we are also walking through one of Portugal's most tragic and romantic love stories. That is why everything in Alcobaça seems to blend together: stone, history, love, prayer, and architecture. The columns surrounding the altar, the chapels behind it, and the seemingly endless naves stretching into the distance all come together to create something far greater than a place to visit. This is a place to feel. As you walk here, you cannot help but wonder, how many centuries have these stones stood here? How many people have prayed in this church? How many have walked these aisles in silence, reflecting, grieving, hoping, or seeking peace? And now here we are, standing in the very same place among the same stones, beneath the same columns, surrounded by the same silence. So when you visit Alcobaça Monastery, do not just stop at the tombs. Take the time to walk behind the altar, wander between the columns, explore each of the small chapels one by one. Because part of the beauty of this place is hidden in that transition. The continuity between the main worship space and the chapels beyond allows you to experience the church not as a collection of separate rooms, but as a living, unified whole. Now we're heading to the Jardim do Amor, or the Garden of Love, here in Alcobaça. This is not just a beautiful garden or a pleasant walking path. It is also the place where one of the oldest and most emotional legends connected to this city is told. Because behind the name Alcobaca lies the legend of two lovers named Alcoa and Baça. According to the story, many centuries ago, a young couple lived in this region and loved each other deeply. The young woman was called Basa, and the young man was called Alcoa. Their love was said to be so powerful that it was not simply a feeling shared between two people. Instead, it became part of the land itself, woven into the trees, the water, the wind, and the landscape surrounding them. But as with many love stories, things did not remain simple for long. One day, Basa encountered a strange and mysterious being. After that meeting, something inside her began to change. According to the legend, she was no longer the same person she had once been. A sense of ambition, distance, or perhaps an unfamiliar feeling that slowly separated her from Alcoa took hold of her heart. And from that moment on, Basa began drifting away from the man she loved. When Alcoa realized what was happening, he was overcome with sorrow. The person he loved was still there, living under the same sky and in the same land, yet she no longer felt close to him. And perhaps that is one of the most painful experiences in life, not when someone completely leaves, but when they remain beside you while no longer truly belonging to you. Alcoa could not bear this growing distance. His grief became so profound that, according to the legend, he cried for days and nights without end. But these were no ordinary tears. As the story goes, Alcoa's tears eventually became a stream, then a river. His sorrow did not remain locked inside him. It flowed into the earth, became water, and turned into part of the landscape itself. Eventually, Basa realized the pain she had caused and understood the mistake she had made. Perhaps it was too late. Perhaps some things could never return to what they once were. Yet her regret was so overwhelming that she too began to cry. She cried for her own transformation, for Alcoa's suffering, and for the love she had lost. According to the legend, Basa's tears also became a stream, and then those waters joined together. The stream born from Basa's tears merged with the one created by Alcoa's sorrow. In life, the two lovers could not truly remain united, but in the end their tears found each other. One river embraced the other, and their love became part of the very landscape that surrounds Alcobaça today. The legend even says that on quiet nights, if you stand beside these waters and listen carefully, you may still hear their whispers. You may hear Alcoa calling out to Basa, Basa's regret, and the melancholy love that forever connects them. Of course, it is only a legend. But when you stand here, read the story, and look at the water, the trees, and the stones around you, it becomes surprisingly easy to believe. I think this is one of the things that makes Alcobaça so special. This city is remembered not only for its magnificent monastery, but also for stories like this romantic, bittersweet, and deeply human. On one side stands the Alcobaça Monastery, one of the most important monuments in Portuguese history. On the other side lives the legend of Alcoa and Baça, forever connected to the city's name. And when you think about it, this story carries many of the same emotions as the famous love story of Pedro and Inês. There, too, we find great love, separation, regret, and a bond that continues even after death. Here, Alcoa and Baça live on through rivers born from tears. Alcobaça feels like more than a city of stone buildings, historic streets, and monuments. It feels like a city of love, longing, forgiveness, and hearts searching for reconciliation. So, when you visit Alcobaça, do not simply tour the monastery and move on. Take a few minutes to stop here, in the Garden of Love. Read the story of Alcoa and Baça, then look around you. Because sometimes, to truly understand a city, you have to listen not to its grand gates, towering columns, or historic halls, but to the quiet story written on a small sign. And perhaps that is Alcobaça's greatest charm. Its history is magnificent, but its stories are profoundly human. There is love, there are mistakes, there is regret, there is the desire to be forgiven, and in the end, there are two separate streams of tears joining the same water. That is where the spirit of Alcobaça comes from, Alcoa and Baça. Two lovers, two rivers of tears, and a love story that continues to be told centuries later. As we enter the monastery, we are welcomed by a spacious and peaceful courtyard. From the very first step, you can feel that this is not just a monastery. but also a large living community that has existed for centuries. As we walk through the courtyard, we come across a scale model of the monastery. Thanks to this model, we can better understand how the complex was designed and how the areas we will be visiting today are connected to one another. A little further on, we see information panels explaining the history in different sections of the monastery. Right from the beginning of the visit, it becomes clear that this was not only a religious building, but a vast monastic complex with kitchens, courtyards, halls, and spaces dedicated to everyday life. We then arrive at one of the most peaceful and elegant corners of the monastery. This is the fountain lavatory located within the cloister. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a beautifully decorated stone fountain, but it actually played an important role in monastic life. The monks washed their hands here and prepared themselves before entering the refectory or continuing with their daily religious routines. Water here symbolized not only cleanliness, but also purification and a simple way of life. When you look closely at the fountain, the stone craftsmanship is truly impressive. The carved leaves, decorative details, and the elegant fountain at its center create a striking focal point within this quiet courtyard. And just a short distance from this fountain is one of the monastery's most important daily living spaces, the kitchen. Now we move into the kitchen. As soon as you step inside, the high ceilings, thick stone walls, an enormous chimney immediately catch your attention. This was a large working space where meals were prepared for hundreds of monks. The massive central chimney allowed several cooking fires to operate at the same time. The monastery also had a water system that continuously brought water from the nearby river, making both food preparation and daily tasks much easier. After leaving the kitchen, you begin to understand that the monks were not simply people devoted to prayer. Life in Alcobaça was highly organized. Everything had its own schedule, purpose, and meaning. To see another part of this organized way of life, we now enter the Sala dos Monges, or the Monks' Hall. At first glance, it appears quite simple. but it was actually one of the central spaces of monastic life. Here, monks gathered together, received their daily assignments, and took part in the life of the community. The architecture of the hall reflects the same spirit of simplicity. High ceilings, strong stone arches, and plain walls dominate the space. Yet this simplicity gives the hall a powerful atmosphere. The goal here was not luxury or display, but order, discipline, and a focus on spiritual life. After the monks' hall, we move on to another area that helps us better understand everyday life in the monastery, the dormitory. This was where the monks slept. Like the rest of the monastery, it is long, simple, and surprisingly impressive. There were no luxurious rooms or private quarters here. The aim was to live a humble, equal life in accordance with monastic rules. As you walk through the dormitory, you gain a stronger sense of how disciplined life must have been. The monks' days were divided between prayer, work, reading, silence, and rest. Even their sleeping quarters reflect this way of life, simple, orderly, and focused more on spiritual discipline than personal comfort. And now, inside this glass display case, we can see preserved wooden angel statues from Alcobaça Monastery. These were not merely decorative pieces. They were symbolic figures that helped create the monastery's religious atmosphere. The musician angels, in particular, represent heavenly music and praise to God. Their colors have faded over time, and some areas have been worn away, but traces of gold, red, and blue can still be seen. This reminds us just how colorful and vibrant medieval and later religious art once was. Today, these stone buildings may appear plain and austere, but in the past they were far more colorful, richly decorated, and visually striking than we often imagine. The history of Alcobaça Monastery dates back to the 12th century. After the conquest of Santarém, Portugal's first king, Afonso Henriques, donated these lands to the Cistercian monks. Over time, the monastery became much more than a religious center. It grew into a powerful institution that played an important role in agriculture, education, production, and administration. For centuries, the monks who lived here not only prayed but also worked and helped organize life throughout the surrounding region. That is why, when we look at Alcobaça Monastery today, we do not simply see a large structure made of stone. We see a living center that helped shape the history of Portugal. As you leave Alcobaça Monastery, it does not feel as though you have simply visited a historic building. Instead, it feels as if you have walked through centuries of silence, dedication, faith, and love stories. Within these stone walls, both the simple lives of the monks and the profound stories that made Alcobaça unforgettable continue to live on. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and support our journey. In the coming episodes, we will continue exploring fascinating cities and remarkable stories from around the world together. See you on the next journey.